The Art of Culinary Spaces, where the transformation at St. Francis Hospital is nothing short of remarkable. With a vision to update a dark, cluttered food space, the team at Rippe Associates successfully created a bright, modern, and inviting servery that enhances the overall patient and staff experience. Welcome FCSI member Christine Guyott as we explore the innovative strategies employed to breathe new life into this essential space. Well, Christine, thanks for joining the show today. We're here to talk about the St. Francis Hospital you worked on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And as starting off the show, like I always do, the first simple question to throw at you is, how did this project come about?
Um, it's one of my favorite stories. I was on the AHF board, and Lisette Costin, who's the VP of Support Services, was also on the board. And she had been working with her local dealer to do all the design work for her projects. And that person was about to retire. So Lisette asked me if I would be willing to do a design for her retail project. And of course, I jumped on that. So we really met, and this project became a reality after our AHF board experience.
Wow, that's a great experience as far as like you never know where that next client's going to come from. And another reason why, little plug here for FCSI, you should get involved with your association and other associations because you never know who you may meet. Um, but back to reality in the episode. In the beginning, what was the project's timeline that you had to work with, and then kind of what their budget plan was, at least in the beginning?
We started the project in 2016,
Oh
and
wow!
there wasn't really a laid out budget or timeline on the St. Francis projects. Basically, we listen to what they want to do and what their goal is. We do an initial layout, equipment cost estimate, and then they price that and just approve the project pretty much as is. So there
Okay.
really wasn't a set budget or timeline. Can get it done as quickly as you can, but then it did go on hold for a couple
Yeah,
of
of
years. We started
course.
it back
Yeah.
up again.
A lot of people visit hospital food, whether it's retail or that people that eat there every day. But most people watching probably don't go there every day. It's probably not the place you go to for lunch unless you're working there. I don't know many people that look forward to going to their local hospital for lunch. So you find yourself going to a lot of hospitals that maybe don't have the best food service operations. And I know you personally are very passionate about changing the philosophy of that and changing the mood and the decor and just the attitude towards it. So give us a little bit of an overview of what you were able to do about the renovation project at St. Francis for their retail food service operation.
Sure. Uh, just like happens in most hospitals, the kitchen and the serving area were built in the basement. So it was a very dark, kind of dismal area. It actually had turnstiles as you entered in. Would have loved to shown both the before and the after because it really is a great transformation. So we were looking at how to make it a brighter place that people wanted to go, a destination, um, just to brighten it up, bring in natural light. They did have some windows. They were the old kind of old style windows that had the curve on the outside, kind of like Burger King, those old Burger Kings.
Yeah.
So all that was replaced with some, fresh windows. So brought a lot more light in, opened it up, and really the clinical staff want to have a place that they can get away.
Right.
That's usually who comes to these retails. Probably 80% is staff, and they have such a tough job to do,
Yeah.
and they need to get away. They need to be able to eat fast. So it was really a modernization project
Okay.
to make the food better, make the space better, and more welcoming.
With the St. Francis Hospital, you had to develop this in phases, and you were redoing an old hospital essentially. Tell us a little bit about some of we talk with consultants all the time about renovating, and a lot of times is a lot more difficult than it is to just build new. So tell us a little bit about some of the complications or challenges that you faced as far as trying to modernize and also open it up and bring in more. I mean, you're talking about doing a lot of things differently to a hospital food service operation. So tell us a little bit about what you had to overcome to get that done.
Sure. The challenges here, there was two buildings that were coming together, and that always brings in more structure. So there was about 12 to 13 floors above the basement, above the
Oh,
kitchen and
wow.
serving area. So the first time we did the project in 2016, we did a complete gut and remodel, is what we're going to do, moving all the exhaust hoods, really shuffling everything around and redoing it. And when the pricing did come back in the end of that project, they just couldn't move the ductwork. You can't move the ductwork,
Yeah.
12 floors up on,
Yeah,
three or
exactly.
four different fans. So that's pretty much what kind of killed the project. So the exhaust was very challenging. We couldn't touch the exhaust hoods.
Oh, wow.
So we had to basically design around that and use some ventless equipment to work through that. As I mentioned, the chases, there were just large chases. When you look at the plan, it really dissected the whole retail, which makes it's a very awkward shape. Um, so we had to work around chases and columns and ductwork and existing space. We didn't have places to expand to. So really we had to, do the best we could in the space we had. And as always, the ceilings were very low.
Yeah.
So those were the challenges that we had to overcome.
So using a lot of ventless, everything else, you also had to do stages of this. Obviously, food service in a hospital can't shut down for renovations. I mean, it has to be available. How were you able to keep operations going while simultaneously still feeding the 80% that still eat there every day? Because you can't, as you said, they don't have a lot of time. It's not like you can tell them to go off campus. Usually there's nothing right there anyway. So you've got to still feed the people working. So how were you able to accomplish a major renovation and feed people at the same time?
Yeah, we really worked with Lisette and her team, with Nick, and they did a lot of temporary areas. We started out the way the existing space was. It had a dining room and it had a coffee shop that was right in the middle of the serving area that they could close off during after hours. And then
Right.
the lower part of the plan. So there's really kind of three sections of the plan for us to work with. And we started with the dining room first. And this has happened on a couple of my projects where um, the interiors folks will start with the dining room, and even though they're squeezed with seating and they're limited with their options, when they open up the dining room and they see what a beautiful place they're going to have in the future, it kind of makes them understand that better things are coming, and
Yeah.
that if they're a little bit more patient, it's coming. They will be able to see a great place. And the architect Julie Schneider did a lot of renderings too, so that they would put those renderings out to say, here's what's
Oh,
coming.
good.
So we started the dining room, and then we were able to kind of keep the coffee shop open and do a lot of grab and go and a little bit of food there, and really work on that bottom main part of the serving area, and then go back and do the middle part, which was the almost the last phase. There was that coffee shop area, which we turned into a bowls and salad bar station. So,
Oh,
um,
cool.
it's really the operator that does an amazing job with, you know, temporary food services. And
Yeah.
it's a very big campus. So they did have some other smaller retail outlets that they put more food in to make sure
Okay.
everybody was fed.
And you mentioned Julie. How did the collaboration between you working with Rippe Associates, obviously, and then Julie Scheider from Studio ELES and the hospital staff? I mean, how did working together? And you mentioned a little bit of it, but expand on that a little bit because, like you said, it's really important to people see that we are making positive changes along the way. How was the three of you able to work together to ensure the success of the project?
It was one of my favorite projects because of uh, the team that we work with, Lisette and Nick and their team on the hospital side, and Julie on the interior and architecture side. Julie's one of the best interior designers, architects that I have ever met. And we'd worked on another project before, and we brought her in to meet Lisette, and she started doing a lot of work with them. But when we started this project in 2016, this was our first project with Lisette and her team. It went on hold after about a year.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, before we redesigned it back in, it was 2019, we picked it back up, this same project. We have probably 5 or 6 other projects in the meantime. And in total, I was just counting them up. We have done 12 kind of new projects for her, or individual projects for her team,
Oh, wow.
including this one, plus about 4 others that are related to this one that just kind of got expanded. So
Yeah.
one of my favorite things is working with a team over and over again on designs, because you get immediate feedback. You build something, they tell you what they like or don't like, what worked, what didn't work. Sometimes you have a project that is a one-off and you get a little bit of feedback, but not a lot. This one, after 12 projects together, we kind of know what everybody wants. We have worked through some of the bugs, and you just get that immediate feedback. So I think our collaboration with the three of us, we had best interiors, great operators, and they were just very easy to work with. So it's one of my favorite systems to work with for sure.
Very, very cool. You were also able to bring in, I mean, again, you got away from the traditional hospital food, finally being in the basement. You've opened it up. You've made it look pretty. You've made it look more inviting and warm and everything. But you've also got to do something with the food, obviously. You can't just serve the same old food in a new dining room. So, what new concepts and what kind of menu options were you guys able to add by bringing in, by not only redesigning, but bringing in new equipment or introducing new equipment to the hospital itself?
Yeah, they have some of the traditionals, and when you have that many people on campus, 5 days a week looking for food, they're going to look for a big variety. So there's some things that you just can't do without. You're going to have grill stations, you're going to have delis,
Right.
sandwich stations, you're going to have salad bars. The new concepts we added a stone hearth oven. So they
Okay.
did a really nice Italian pizza program,
Nice.
um, and then also a bowls program. So there's sometimes, Southwest bowls, grain bowls,
Yeah.
made to order, tossed to order salad bowls. They wanted to add another made to order station in the mix. So we added that extra piece in, and a lot of grab and go. Because again,
Yeah.
there's 30 minutes for people to eat. They need to get down, grab something and leave.
Right. And what's the feedback been now that it's been done for a little bit, a couple years? What's the hospital staff and visitors said or feedback to the hospital been?
Yeah, Nick has given us some of the feedback from the customers who they just can't believe how bright it is and how open it is, uh, how much easier it is to get through the lines. Um, Nothing about it looks like a hospital food service. The interiors, are just amazing. There's no, double-sided cashiers that you leave. It looks just like you would be at a retail store where you're standing in line, and it's a beautiful millwork station. So there's been a lot of feedback both on the food, and the more options that they have, and
Yeah.
the layout of being able to get to the food easier, and just the whole aesthetics of the dining
Yeah.
room and the serving area.
So you've done a lot of work, as I mentioned, in healthcare industry. How do you see the role of hospital food service evolving in the coming years? Obviously, you've gotten away from the basements of the world, which I'm sure there's still quite a few of those, unfortunately. But how do you see it evolving in the next, as the next generation and the next generation comes through? What are they looking for?
Yeah, I think it imitates what they're looking for outside of hospitals. Really, they want something quick. They want
Yeah.
it customized, and they want it to be healthy, wholesome, and fast. So
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of combinations of tech, just like everybody else is. So there's not one retail that we're doing that doesn't have some element of a pre-order, prepay pickup station.
Nice.
Especially important, as I mentioned, in hospitals because they don't have very much time to come down and sit down and eat. It'd be great if everybody had 30, 40 minutes to sit down and relax, but that's not the way it works. They grab their food, they go up to a, station, break room and eat. So we're seeing the tech, which helps with timing so they can order, pay, and just come down and pick something up. And we're seeing just, kind of more plant forward items,
Yeah.
really reflecting what the values are of the hospital,
Yeah.
making sure that they have, options that are healthy as well as fast.
Is there anything looking back, hindsight's 2020, is there anything you would have done differently in the design or implementation of the project?
Yeah, it's interesting. As I mentioned, this main retail project ended up burgeoning into several different other projects around it. Um, we didn't know at the time that we were going to have a whole hallway move to kind of the west side of our building. So we could have expanded out that way. Um,
Mm,
there's an old cook chill area behind our, because we didn't touch anything in the kitchen, but there was an
okay.
old cook chill area and they weren't doing cook chill anymore. And they, had a great need for more grab and go cold food and catering. So that ended up being a piece of the project. And then to the
Okay.
south, we added a coffee shop and a physician's dining. So,
Oh,
I
wow.
think if you had the whole piece together, I'm not sure that we would have done a whole lot different, but we might have had a little bit more width to work
Yeah.
with. Um, and probably more storage that we would have had on the side that's opposite from the kitchen, the walk-ins. We were able to get a few walk-ins in. And again, with ceiling heights and the exhaust hoods where they were, it just made it very challenging for that. But I probably would have added a little bit more storage on the side away from the kitchen.
The one thing that everybody never has enough of, right? Storage, whether it's warm, cold, whatever. It's always a problem.
Shoes.
Yeah, that too. How can people find out more about you and Rippe Associates?
Yeah, I think the best thing is to go to our website, which I'm sure you'll have on the screen, but it's rippeassociates.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. And I think those are probably the two best places to find me.
Well, Christine, thanks so much for joining the show today. It's great to always learn more about the projects that people don't necessarily get to see on a regular basis. You know, it doesn't have the glitz and glamour of a stadium or a public restaurant you're going to regularly. So, but these are the operations that are really, really important to the industry that most people don't realize how much work FCSI members do. So, really appreciate you joining and talking more about that so we can learn more about this one. If you'd like to learn more about this project and to see the pictures, the blueprints, or whatever, or read more about what Christine went through with this, visit our website at fcsita.org. Here you can view the Project Showcase publication. You can watch other podcasts that we do featuring our consultant members, learn about FCSI membership, or better yet, how an FCSI member can help you on your next project. Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Art of Culinary Spaces. We hope this conversation has sparked your creativity and inspired new ideas within the world of food service design and planning. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on all of our future podcasts. Stay tuned for our next episode when we explore another groundbreaking project and exceptional design from FCSI members that are transforming the culinary landscape.